Hey everyone, welcome to this interview I have today with the beautiful Dora Cuenca. I'm so happy for you to join us. You look so beautiful sitting there with all your beautiful
Oh, thank you, Bonnie.
books
Thank
and
you
artwork
for having
behind you.
me.
Dora, could you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm a Costa Rican muralist, illustrator, and surface designer. And I live in New Jersey, just outside Philadelphia. And I am the mother of three little kids. And yeah, I guess that's it.
So we know that you are a surface pattern designer, but I would love to go back even further and have you tell us what you were doing before you maybe even knew what surface pattern design was.
Yeah. So I'm from Costa Rica, born and raised. I moved here 12 years ago. My husband is from New Jersey, and I went to school for graphic design.
Okay.
So, I had a good handle of like Photoshop and Illustrator and that kind of thing. I was doing website design. I moved here to the States and I knew I didn't want to do that anymore. But I had no idea what to do. So I started to make a lot of art and do random jobs. At the time, I had no kids, so it was like a lot of free time to experiment with art. After a while, I started to realize that I love doing illustration, but I miss doing the computer part too. Like I wanted to find a way to use the skills I already had. And that's when I actually think seeing your blog back in the day,
Yeah.
um, how I found surface design and
Mm,
realized that was a thing that I didn't even know existed. And all of a
yeah.
sudden, this whole world just like opened up, and I'm like looking around me because I have an obsession with like office supplies and pretty notebooks and all sorts of things like that. And I'm like, I'm surrounded by it, and I never even thought someone's making these things. Um,
Yeah.
and so there, my search began. But back then, there wasn't much in terms of how to learn about it.
Yeah.
I remember at one point I actually downloaded the whole manual for Illustrator, and I was like,
Yep.
I'm gonna get through this thing like one page at a time. I probably did that for about a month. I like did
Mhm.
this much, and then I was just like, there's got to be a better way.
I have
Yeah,
done something similar and it's very difficult.
yeah. So that's kind of how I got started, trying to figure out from whatever I could find online. But I wasn't, years were passing by and I wasn't making much progress. And it
Yep.
wasn't until I started, I took all of your Skillshare classes. So I started making more progress. And then I took immersion last year. And I
Yep.
think that's when things kind of like really fell into place and I found a system. I found a way to create work consistently.
So tell me about your decision to take the 2019 immersion course.
It was a big investment for sure. So it wasn't an easy decision to make, but at the same time, when I make a lot of lists, when I made my list and kind of like what are the things that I can learn by myself, how long are they going to take me, like time is so precious for me, having three kids and very little time to work. And so that's when it became like the obvious decision. Like,
Mm,
yes, I could sit here and try to read through the Illustrator manual and try to find out all the things that I want to know about the licensing industry. But a lot of them are very secretive, and hard to find.
yeah.
Or I can just invest this money and see progress. Like I knew that you make a big investment, you really set yourself to work on it. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
and I was nervous coming into it, like wondering, like, oh, is it gonna pay off? Is it gonna? And I am so happy I did, because it just, my list started to like actually I could check things off the list. I started to like make progress in my work, and I feel like I'm in a really good place now moving forward.
So one really cool thing for me to see with you is that the first few times I saw you share work in our private course group, I'm like, that's cool. Who is this person? I was like, that's beautiful. But for me, it's been right at a year since you took the course and it I just saw your work get more and more and more consistent to where now it's a full, like, I can see a piece of your work and know that it's yours without seeing your name on it. And I feel like that is such the goal. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I have just seen this beautiful, like, gradual consistency. So, can you talk to us a little bit about that process? Like, was that one of your biggest takeaways from the course? Um, and how has that looked for you over the year?
Yeah, I think before going into it, I had sort of like an doubt about my work, like insecurity about it, because I thought that to be able to be a surface designer, one, I would have to be able to draw realistically and draw like, like you see like the different, like botanicals, geometricals, like conversationals, all the different types of patterns. And I'm thinking, I can't do that. Like I can't do all this different type of work. But as I started, like going through the first lessons of immersion, I think my biggest takeaway was doing so much work that you start to trust your hand. Like the way I see a flower might not be the way a flower looks realistically, but it's the way I see a
Yeah.
flower, the way I
Yeah.
can imprint it in the paper. And I just started, the more work I did that way, um, I just started to get a lot more confident about it.
Hmm.
And then I'm just producing, like I always, like I have notebooks all over my house, in my car, like wherever. And um, I'm able now to like, I, I think like just having a system has been like one of the biggest things for me, like being able to have like a work that looks like mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've done it beautifully.
Thank you.
So what would you say to someone who was where you were a year ago, like maybe interested but not really sure? It also, I think, is unique that you already had some Illustrator experience. And so I would say half the people who come to the course are brand new, and about half of them have at least a good handle on Illustrator. So, what was your experience with basically taking the Illustrator part of the immersion course with some experience under your belt?
I think I found so many new tricks, like it just, I'm using Illustrator in a way that I hadn't used it before. Like it
Mm,
actually became part of my creative process. Whereas before it was more kind of like I'm piecing things together, but I wasn't really using it to like draw and make, plus I'm like just quicker at it now too. I like
yeah,
all the keyboard shortcuts and everything, like it's just, I'm always amazed when I sit down at the computer now. It's like, oh, like that was easy,
it
before I
feels
used to
good.
like struggle, like everything I wanted to do was like I would have to Google, like tutorial
Yeah,
for this and this and try to, find something for it. So even having experience with it, I feel like I learned so much. And yeah, even just like file organization, all sorts of things that but I think for anybody that's on the fence about it, I would say, if you feel that urge that like you want to pursue this and you're like trying to figure out what the best way is, um, if you get on the immersion course, like your to-do list of things you want to learn and things you want to accomplish, like you're going to start to check it off. There's a system, and if you follow it, if you put the work, you're going to get somewhere. Like it's just impossible not to,
it's
whether
impossible
that
not to.
just means, the first year, if you're brand new, you learn how to use the program and you're starting to make consistent work, like um, the next year you make the other steps. It's just, I think if you go in and you do the work, it's just really, it's impossible.
It does
Yeah,
work as
yeah,
long as you work. So I'm hearing from you consistency
yeah.
and bite-sized steps. Bite-sized steps.
A system,
A system,
I'm
yeah.
not very type A at all.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I'm
don't
good
think
at doing the
most
work.
creatives aren't.
I'm really good at doing the work. Like I know what work I have to do and I want to do it, but I'm not very good at getting organized. So before doing immersion, like I would do a little bit here, I would finish a pattern here, I would do some doodles here and like learn something about the industry here, but nothing was like clicking because everything
Yeah.
was all over the place and I didn't know how to like put all these pieces together.
Yeah.
So having that system and like knowing what step came first, I think that was huge for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us about an accomplishment or something that you're really proud of that has happened over the last year?
Actually, I think one of the biggest things would be a couple months after starting the immersion course. Someone here in Philly saw my work on the Instagram, and basically, I got this big project for doing all these murals in the city,
Yeah.
and that
Cool.
was, I mean, it's not your typical surface design or surface design at all,
It
but
is though.
I could, you know, I could apply the things that I had learned into it, like even into like the creative brief of it and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've made some cool murals in the city this year, and I'm very, very proud of
So
them.
cool. Oh, that's amazing. And what is on the horizon for you? What are you looking forward to?
Currently working on wrapping up a couple of collections and building my online portfolio, private portfolio to send out to art directors and companies
Yeah.
I dream to work with. So I'm hoping that, you know, this summer, end of this year, to hopefully land something.
Yeah. You will.
Thank
We're so excited for you. Thank you so
you.
much for
Thank
sharing your
you. Bye.
story and letting us follow along with your beautiful journey.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.